It should be fine.
As long as we get the right themes out, you're good.
Yeah, as long as you get it completely right with insight and authenticity and a few jokes, it'll be fine. I'm Dave Chapman.
I'm Rob Kernahan.
And this is Realities Remixed Live, an original podcast from Capgemini, and this week co-sponsored by Google. We're live at the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas for the last time for Google Cloud Next 2026. Now, Rob and I just here. Unfortunately, Ez has not been able to be with us this week, but we have been ably supported by a new roving reporter, Rachel Belmonte. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's sad for it to be over.
Because it starts slow, then goes fast, right?
It really, really does. Don't get me wrong, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
It's been a tiring few days, but yeah, no, I've really, really enjoyed this. It's been great.
All right. We are at the end of another busy week of a Google Cloud conference, 2026 this time around. So let's try and do a bit of a job of wrapping it up and returning to the themes that we set out in the opening episode. We'll come to that in a second. I think, though, I wanted to start with what progress felt like from 2025, and to remind anyone, or just to set a bit of context, if you didn't listen to the 25 shows from Next, we had this theme of magic running through the shows, and magic was about an Arthur C. Clarke quote of about any technology that's so sufficiently advanced can be indistinguishable from magic. And I think our observations of this when we were at the show last year was there was a lot of technology being talked about that felt magical in its nature. And the promise that was being made in 2025 was one of moving from small, very straightforward proofs of concept into something that feels like scaling.
Yeah.
And I think two things. First of all, the conversation seems to have definitely moved on. We'll come on to that in a second. But it also feels like the adoption lag has most certainly not gone away. And we also talked about this last year, which is there is a rate of innovation going on in the industry. We talked about this a bit with Gina this week. But the rate of innovation is so fast that organizations are struggling to keep up with that for a multitude of very good reasons. So, thoughts on progress from last year?
So, if you were a naysayer about agentic, you've been proven wrong. Because what I saw at this conference is demonstration of agentic enveloping huge problems and getting them to deliver on it. So, this idea of high agency, high capability has arrived. Some of the stuff they're talking about where a human can talk to a computer and it goes away and does quite dramatic things is happening now. And so you've still got the adoption lag, but actually there are some incredible things happening that people are on stage doing live and it is working. And it's just, you just go 2-3 years ago, the concept of doing that was mind-boggling. So if you got the capability today and took it back, say, 3 years and showed it, you think it would be a trick. So going back to your magic point, it's only because we've lived the agentic revolution that we understand that it's real.
So from your perspective, this is your first Next. We'll come back to that a bit later, but you're being dropped in at this point. But having worked in the industry for years and observing this, how real is it feeling for you?
Oh, it's feeling very real. But just to pick up on what Rob was saying, what you're starting to see now is whilst the agentic era is completely there, and we've seen it with customers, fantastic customer examples at Next, it's how customized those agentic examples are and how nuanced they are as well. It probably presents more questions in my head and probably to listeners as well in terms of, the adaptability, role of partners and how we would play, within that space. So yeah, no, it really, really has shifted, I think. And well, I think let's give that another 6 months. There's going to be a heck of a lot more to come, I think.
You take it as similar as this. 2 years ago, agents couldn't run for a couple of seconds without making a mistake. Now they can run for 11 hours and produce highly valuable work.
So we haven't talked about the expo a great deal this week. We touched on it at the beginning of the week, but there's a couple of reasons for that. The first is once you've seen one of these expo floors, we've talked about it a lot in the last couple of years. So we felt just talking about it was a little repetitive. It was obviously very large and there's some impressive stuff there. But one thing I did note when I was having a look around it today was the tone of it has moved completely in the last, well, actually taking a step back. You go back 5 years, the expo floor was cloud management, cloud migration, data in the cloud, lake houses, those sorts of things. Go to 2 years ago, it was Gen AI centric. Now you hardly see any of those words, really. The words around agents and agentic, everywhere the agentic enterprise is extremely prevalent.
Yeah.
What are your observations on the expo?
I think you're right. The conversation has definitely shifted, but at the core...
At speed and scale.
Yeah. So I think it was cloud for 10 years plus. Then we saw what UK could come in. It's more... The other thing I've spotted is it's more about getting results fast. So what's the value of this? So if you think about cloud, it presented a business case that, as long as you did it right, it worked well. Agentic is presenting a really obvious and stupidly good business case. And I think everybody's latched on to the fact that this does actually work. It does actually produce really good results at speed. And you're seeing huge productivity gains.
I'll tell you what I didn't see on the expo floor. The Kool-Aid stand that you obviously went to.
I've drunk it, Dave.
It
works.
What did it taste like?
It was a lovely lemon sorbet type flavour.
That cheeky.
And I had that and I went, ooh.
Was it like a slush puppy sort of texture, or was it fizzy, or was it flat?
Or was it zesty?
Well, there was zest in
Yes.
it, and it was just nicely sparkling.
Nicely sparkling.
So it's pleasant. Yeah. Pleasant, and it was easy to drink, much like your new agentic future.
That's what I hear.
Oh.
First impressions for you of Expo Floor. Did you ever go to any of the cloud big ones?
No, I didn't actually.
Yeah,
no.
So
no.
first at this scale.
First at this scale. Well, it's obviously hard to compare it. I think, just catching on again what Rob was saying about, kind of the agentic and kind of the AI everywhere on the floor, there was just so much emphasis on trying to get any customer technologist using agentic and approving how easy it is. And so there's so many different examples that were there by Google and actually also by other sponsors as well, if I'm honest. So there was definitely more interaction in the expo hall, more than what you would maybe typically see at a local in-country summit.
Right,
if I'm honest,
I think that's fair.
Yeah,
because the quality of what's going on the booths and the investment in those booths is so much higher here. In some cases,
100%.
It's like going into an office.
Yeah. I think also, Doris down the road, she on a Sunday evening just does a bit of vibe coding and it works for her. And she built a website out of the shed.
Yeah, nice.
But it is that easy.
Fully sovereign.
Yeah. Brand new website, selling rugs.
Well, we'll come back to Doris shortly, because what I wanted to do is return to the 7 core themes that we set out at the beginning of the week and just map to them a bunch of the announcements. Now, we're going to cover headline announcements here, because covering all 80-odd announcements in the show, we'd be here for the next couple of hours. But let us know if you think we've missed a key one. Put it.
That's a dangerous thing to say.
Ping us.
I think we're about to get a flood of emails.
Let's go. I'll take it. If it's that bad, we'll record another summary and pretend it never happened.
The magic of recording in a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. But let's start then. So I'm going to remind us all what the 7 are, and then we'll just go through each one and just very quickly go through the headlines in each area. So it was AI first enterprise transformation. Agentic AI is the next paradigm. Data is the foundation for AI, sovereign cloud and trusted AI, infrastructure modernization, security and resilience as AI scales, and developer productivity and platform engineering.
Yeah.
So, as a roving reporter, let's start with you, Rachel. AI first enterprise transformation. So we've seen 2 things that occur to me that really connect to this, but what have I missed and what do you think? The first is the agentic blueprint that they've talked about, which is here's how it stacks together.
Yep.
And he's how you go forward. And then there is 750 million of funding going into the kind of effectively the engine in the partner network that's going to drive and speed up agentic transformations.
definitely. And I think the 750 million announcement, it had so many layers to it. So it wasn't just about, the additional kind of engineering capability of SMEs. It goes all the way down to smaller partners as well, where there is additional kind of sandbox agentic AI, support being given by Google. So they are clearly putting in a lot of effort into partners being that kind of change management to the organizations. The Agentic Enterprise Blueprint, the full Gemini Enterprise platform, I think the biggest announcement being that Vertex AI has now been rebranded. I mean, that in itself, it's just Gemini Enterprise now. There's so much now that is coming underneath that umbrella, and we saw it right at the very beginning of the year with the customer engagement suite as well. So for Gemini Enterprise being a command center point, it is getting increasingly so for that agentic era agent first motion that they're pushing forward.
So I think the toolkit, the stack,
full end-to-end
how
stack,
things come together, much clearer than last year. The tool set fleshed out, and then a bunch of acceleration funding being put into the partner organizations that are going to help Sherpa organizations through.
Yeah, better connected capability, easier to adopt. They've created they've reduced the friction on getting to good agentic AI. And that's what they've clearly done. They've bound it all together. For an organization staring at the stack before, it was probably a bit confusing. Now you go, okay, it's easy to rationalize in your head, so you can then work out what you probably want to do with it next.
RIP Nana Banana, though.
Well, I actually did like the name, but it was a good example of a naming problem, which is when you said Nano Banana to people, they didn't quite know what it was. Cool name, but you know what? Didn't make any sense to them.
Google historically have always basically named something as what it literally is.
Yeah.
And that's why users have loved it. It's easy to adopt.
Does what it says on the tin.
Well, the next theme, I think we've talked enough to not even really need to touch on this, but agentic AI is the next paradigm, I think, is very clear. And it's not like the next paradigm, really. It's like the current paradigm now. It's like we are at the beginning of it, but it feels like we're in it. It's almost, you're going to have to do it because if nothing else, your competitors are going to be doing it.
When you look at the productivity benefit, and we'll get onto this when we get to the developer, it's huge. And it started off in a few domains that were really obvious, but it's branching out. And the whole idea of rewiring your core enterprise processes. And the big thing on stage that was said this morning was bringing trust to that, which was you can set strict guidance to agents to say they can only work in certain bounds, so you can bring a level of predictability to the way they operate.
But I think it's also the point you made earlier, which was the business case for this.
It's bloody obvious.
I mean, it's like we're going to fall into that paradigm, whether we like it or not. And it's like when you look at the previous major paradigm shift, which is probably cloud, there was a pretty good business case there, but actually you had to work your way up to that business case unless it was a really obvious cost reduction, which I think we all found was a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
There was upside to it, but the application of this, the upside is more evident. I think.
And there's two parts to that as well. So to go to cloud was a significant wrench for many organizations to get out of the traditional into the modern cloud native era and new operating models to make it work. With agentic, it is, as the tool set presents itself to us, it's incredibly easy to adopt. It's quite straightforward, and so the barrier to entry is also low. So you've got this beautiful business case, which is really obvious. It works, and barrier to entry is very low. So you've got like these great conditions for success.
I mean, and also for startups, digital natives, I mean, it almost presents this question of how do I generate revenue at zero cost?
Yeah. Well, token cost.
And it's there. Really now, if companies are willing to invest and adopt in it,
and you get the choice of models as well. So if you're on a tight budget, Lite can do an awful lot. 3.1 Lite for vibe coders and things like this. That's going to be able to give them a better entry point as well. So the small to the medium to the grand all have a choice.
So I think there are a series of challenges that come along with it as well. Which we've covered in other episodes on the show, so I won't go into them. But there are cultural challenges around this. There are kind of how we're all going to work together. The level of change is enormous. The paradigm shift in businesses and rethinking how your business operates rather than just agentifying what previous processes used to do. If there was ever a time to do this, it is now. We proved as an industry when we did ERP how difficult that is. But I think it's a watch this space on this stuff. To our point, the entry level here is getting much, much more straightforward.
I think when you take the ERP paradigm, it's a good to call back to it because it was painful. That was like a multi-year program, open heart surgery on the core of the organization, very complicated. I don't think the problem with agentic implementation is the same, though. I think it's easier to get an implementation. It's whether or not its provenance and efficacy is accurate and you trust it. So it's a different game to implement. It's a different set of things you have to get past. However, we see a lot in the announcements to help allay those fears and make it a bit more straightforward.
Indeed. Let's move on to the next theme, which is data as the foundation for AI. So remind us of the announcements in that space.
Oh,
Rachel.
yes, the agentic data cloud and borderless data.
Borderless
data. The borderless data was the big piece, wasn't it? Let's be honest. You know, AWS, Azure, zero egress, low latency. I mean, yeah.
I mean, it ticks all the boxes, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
I mean, it makes an architect happy.
We'll come on to the automation of architects in a minute.
I'm a bit worried about that, David.
Come on to that. It's good. It looks good. It's like all this agentic stuff was fine until it impacted architects, wasn't it?
No, I don't like it.
Yeah, no, it's a problem, isn't it?
Well, we'll get into it, but there'll be an ivory tower pivot. You watch
God,
this space.
God help us. All right. Right in your space, this one's your favourite subject, I think, of the moment, beyond architecture, which is sovereign cloud and trusted AI. We had a great conversation with Dom on this week. We talked about how sovereign as a separate thing is now becoming very much part of an optional portfolio of solutions that you can bring together that really can be crafted for any scenario.
Yeah. And we got on to the point you made, which was choice in your ecosystem helps you protect your sovereignty, but maintain your access to best-in-class technology. So we've seen in this particular one, high levels of capability put onto platforms that answer some quite significant, delicate needs, like security. And so everybody can have access to the technology.
Well, I thought also some of the options that it gives, which is assuming that you have a situation you want to create as sovereign as possible, there is options for that. But then should that be compromised in any way, there is burst options to protect data, which might burst to a less sovereign situation, but actually sort of data protection and operating protection and risk management first.
And that was had a couple of sovereign sessions here at the conference with some key organizations, and that was essentially a large part of the conversation, which was cloud gives you the option to move fast, pivot, go to different places, and that might actually maintain control and autonomy over what you need, and that is actually what you need with sovereignty. It's about control and autonomy, and in certain times that is exactly the answer that you would seek. And we've seen a couple of organizations, most notably in Europe, that have done that at pressing need because they wanted to maintain control.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, a solid episode with Dom if you're interested in that. And also, I think we took sovereignty to the next level with the village level sovereignty.
Doris, I mean, she loves her village sovereignty.
Pushing the agenda forward.
There are some problems with village level sovereignty. Doris did ask me to generate an AI image last Christmas, and it's about a third complete on the 3.1 cluster. It's still going.
Surprised it's going that fast.
I mean, the SLA is a bit low, but you know, Doris, she's lovely. She's a very forgiving client, so she's all right with the wait time.
She's relaxed. Security and resilience as AI scales. So obviously a lot going on here on the back of the Wiz acquisition. So tell us a bit about the Wiz acquisition, and then let's go on to what they've said this week.
Well, the Wiz acquisition was the largest acquisition to date with Google, about $32 billion.
Yeah, that's a lot of money in it.
It's
and by the way, Wiz, awesome booth.
Yeah.
Like I think my favourite booth.
Yeah, you can't miss it. Yeah. Bright pink. And it would have been a miss not to bring the CEO of Wiz on stage at the keynote, right? And we talk about some of the things that they could be doing, of which they've introduced now a Gemini native agentic SOC of specialized agents for threat hunting.
Sorry, I thought you meant socks, as in Marcel got some from the Wiz booth, so I was getting a bit confused. An agentic native SOC?
Yeah, a Gemini native agentic SOC. So yeah, it was a specialized agents for threat hunting, and they have committed to 60-second resolution.
That's a game changer. An absolute game changer.
And demoed it. The demo was
When they say 60-second resolution, do they just turn it off? the power goes out. I mean, that is rapid resolution.
Well, what's likely to happen here, right? Well, not to go too deep into the world of cyber, but cyber is going to cease to operate at human speed.
Oh yeah, no, it'll be it's machine speed cyber, isn't it?
And it already has in some respects, like, attacks and things like that are already running at vast speed, but fast resolution, fast re-attack.
Well, you take. I'm going to refer to another AI now, so to make sure nobody's listening. But if you take Mythos that came out, what was it, 2 weeks ago?
I think a klaxon's just gone off outside.
there's a guy coming in, rappelling down.
There's people coming over.
And that goes and hunts 0 day, and I think the stats were it found 1,000 in. Right, so you got AI finding the result, then it's not going to be long before that 0 day then has something that then goes and attacks it.
Correct.
And then you're going to have this type of solution.
Repel at speed.
Yeah,
but this kind of highlights what Gina was talking about, the KPIs on agents. So, if you've got all of these specialist monitoring tools, there's going to be more emphasis now on that accuracy as well. So, even the dark web intelligence that was announced, again, they're already quoting 98% accuracy. Yeah. It's just going to be KPI heavy, I think, in this space.
Yeah, it's going to be funny returning to 98% in a year's time, and they'll be like, God, we've had to go to 99.79. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's yeah. So we haven't touched too much this week on security and resilience, but a lot has gone on in that particular space. Might be worth talking to Wiz at some point in the future, I think, on the show. Okay, final theme, which was developer productivity and platform engineering. Now, Rob, you love vibe coding, so...
I mean, it's my favourite thing.
Yeah.
It's my favourite thing.
You spend the weekend knocking up a bit of vibe coding?
I fear it makes me sound old. But no, if you think about what it is, you have a conversation with the machine. It understands your intent. It asks you questions in reverse, and then it goes and builds you something. And then you can tell it to go change it. And again, you talk about it a year and a half ago. It was a bit shonky, and now it's like really good. So the test I always had was ask the AI to build Tetris. And I asked it 18 months ago, and it was very basic and sometimes didn't work.
I think it is still true to say, just to be authentic about it, I think it is still true to say that organizations aren't necessarily pushing vibe code directly into production, and some organizations have actively taken vibe code out of production.
But if you think about what it is presenting, vibe coding's come out of the developer, but actually the answer isn't the developer vibe coding. The answer is the analyst who understands the business paradigm having a conversation with the agents and them going to build a business result. So I don't think vibe coding is for the developer. I think vibe coding is for the enterprise. And that's the point about it.
It exists at the AI tools level in a stack. It's at the top of the stack. It's not in the middle of the stack. And it is basically to allow, effectively a future workforce to be able to create tooling off the stack that they've got.
But that's the vibe engine, though, right? Because then you've also got anti-gravity, which you've been mentioning, Rob.
Marcel's our vibe engine.
Or the vibe killing engine, I think, would be a better way to describe him. I mean, you've never seen a buzzkill like it.
But the anti-gravity agent as well. So again, that was another announcement about the self-healing capability and the vibe loop. So I think kind of going back to what you were saying and where that kind of vibe sits, having it as kind of a standalone engine.
Yeah.
Just a word or two on what the anti-gravity engine was.
Oh, so it's an anti-gravity agent. So basically, it's just a native agentic engine kind of integrated into the Google AI Studio and Gemini Code Assist as well. So it's almost like, think of it as like a tooling hub platform.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to just briefly touch on was the move from reactive to proactive.
All right.
What happened there?
So sort of predicting the future. All this data comes together, the agents look at it, and they sort of take action before the event has an impact. Type thing. So if you think about survivability and system staying, I mean, you get Netflix and the Chaos Monkey that help them develop this highly resilient architecture, because this is very different in the sense that you get the same results, but actually the way you do it is you're seeing things that are about to happen and taking action. So again, agentic operators over the system. And we've always pushed for proactive operations and trends to failure and things like this, but it's just a much higher level of sophistication associated with what we've always been trying to do in operations.
I think it all, to me, the stuff like that, the proaction stuff, which I'm sure is evident in the native agentic SOC, for example.
It
is all going to be about speed, everything moving at the speed of compute and the speed of agents, way beyond the speed of humans.
The fear I have, and
you only have one.
I only have in this particular instance, and I know, it's one of those things that just niggles me at the back of the mind, that the system becomes so automated and so reliable on speed of machine that what happens if something does break? And I'm not saying it will, but I just fear that moment.
I think it almost certainly will break.
Yeah, and how do we cope?
Chaos theory would suggest that it absolutely
it probably
inevitable.
will. Yeah. And it's our ability to recover. So do we put the human system in place that's able to cope? Can we cope?
Yeah. I mean, I think a good note to complete the review of themes on that, because I do think that is becoming a bigger question, perhaps, as we go forward, in the sense of like, all these tools. Like, can we cope? Can we absorb them fast enough? Can we change fast enough? Time will tell on that. I think what's definitely clear is 25 to 26, very tangible movement in terms of the tool set, very tangible movement in terms of case studies and clients on stage talking about stuff. Would expect the same level of pace over the coming year, I suspect. This will top out at some point, I think, in terms of like, the sort of the tool set is complete. Don't think we're quite there yet, though, are we?
So the there's more to go in the tooling. It's maintain pace. I think we're getting to the point now, though, where what it can achieve now is so far behind what many organisations have implemented. Yeah. There's a long way to go. So even when it tops out, you've got 5-10 years of implementation.
Well, it's acknowledged here, isn't it, in the 750 funding?
Yes.
The 750 funding is a direct accelerant into the adoption gap, isn't it, Reg?
Yes, it entirely is. I think we sometimes look at many organisations on stage and quite quickly think, other organisations and companies can quickly do that. They can't. They really, really can't, especially not large enterprises.
The level of shift, even if you look at the original enterprise stack and then how that shifts into the kind of the agentic enterprise stack, it's a profound move.
It really, really is. And it goes back to that transformation piece again. So many people are kind of questioning that. And even like the customers that even I've spoken to, this week, this is all great, but what's my transformation plan?
It's the first question.
Plan?
It's, you see it all. And the first question is, how?
Yeah, completely.
That is absolutely the question of the moment. How?
I think the existential question of what are we in the intelligence age, and then the how very shortly after that, are the two big senior questions that are being asked. We talked about Gina with that about that subject earlier in the week, and I think that's a globally consistent question. Okay, on that note, have we missed anything, roving reporter? Is there any other bits and bobs?
Well, as you said at the very beginning, there are going to be, a load of product announcements. Those, I think, are the main ones. They're the highlights, I would say.
Let's say that. And if we have missed any, let us know. We'll give you the email as usual at the end of the show.
There's one thing, David, I was expecting you to talk about and you didn't, which was the Application Development Center, which is designed to replace architecture process. Basically, you talk to it and it understands your architectural need and creates you as code Terraform that goes and builds out your data center. And as an architect, evolved
as a last generation level 4 architect,
as last gen, essentially last gen. I'm quite surprised you didn't. Maybe it's all the dents you created have impacted you. You haven't maybe dented yourself because you dented everything.
Unintentionally chaotic with all of that.
But were you magnanimous for not bringing up, do you fear, or did you just forget?
You were so excited, holding a bottle of Kool-Aid in each hand, that I didn't like to say that it was coming for you.
You didn't want to be the buzzkill.
No, I didn't want to spoil your vibe.
Job. Yeah, okay.
Didn't want to spoil your vibe. But on a serious note with that, it is, it's inevitable.
Well, the funny thing about it is, in the architecture community, a lot of architects went, it'll never catch up with me. And it just has. It just literally has. I
think every single industry that's being impacted has. Now, the big question goes from that. So if you look at the sort of impact on the creative, that's a big conversation.
Yeah.
And you look at that and you go, depending on where you are on it, it's an amazing tool to accelerate the creative process, but the creative process is innately human in some ways because it's humans that are consuming the art or product that comes out of that creative process. And like humans like talking to humans, they like hearing humans, they like to see humans do something. Now, challenge for architects, I would say.
What? To become humanized? We're going to talk to people.
Not that big.
What are you talking about? David?
That would require you to climb down the circular stairs in the ivory tower and come creaking out of the bottom. No, not that ambitious. Not that ambitious.
Do we have to poke our head out the window and shout?
It was more that the human in the loop aspect of it is more governing, perhaps, there. Like, do you think there's a role in the way that there is, or I would contend, always going to be a role for the creative, no matter how good the tools get? The creative human and the tools will be able to do great things.
Yeah.
What is the role of the architect in a proactive kind of design and execution agent world?
So basically the discipline has to change to one where you might have been in line, helping, deciding, choosing, to one where you're out of band and you're watching everything that's going on and you're trying to make the conditions for success to enable the engineers, developers, whoever to get on with it and create good results. I think architects need to reboot the way they operate so that they're now a support function as opposed to an inline function. I think that's the big thing for us. And I think maybe setting the way to go about using these tools and deciding the ones that we do engage with and how we engage, and maybe providing guidance and education and training, as opposed to what we're traditionally used to, like shouting out the ivory tower window, don't do it like that.
You lads had better start working on your future job descriptions.
I mean, I think we've just sent the fear of God into the community, thinking they might have to talk to other humans.
So, your first week as a podcast host and your first week at a big conference.
Yes, I think I got a semi-promotion in the podcast from intern, slightly higher at one point.
To Robin Reporter.
Well, yeah, to Robin Reporter as well, but yes.
Yeah.
Dave never promoted me.
Was it a self-promotion?
Still waiting for you to prove yourself. We just never talked about it. He just stuck about.
I've just hung around like a bad smell.
Just kept turning up. It went on so long, we were a bit uncomfortable mentioning it.
No, but thank you for having me, though. It's been really great fun. Really enjoyed it.
Good.
Well, thank you for stepping in. It's been great to have your voice on the show and bring your point of view and perspective on it. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
It's been great. On that note, shall we go home?
Yes.
Yes, Rob's got to go up 6 hours before the airport, hasn't he? So
better get cracking.
That's brutal. Right at the end. Just stick the knife in. Just like,
You'd normally be there by now.
Would have been there 24 hours before. As soon as check-in opens, my bag's on the thing. Get that conveyor belt running.
Want to dive deeper into today's topics and what they mean for your business? Drop us a line at realitysremixed@capgemini.com. We're on LinkedIn. Connect, DM, and send us your questions for future episodes. And hey, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. It helps us make the show even better. Big thanks to all of our guests, our sound wizards Ben and Louis, producer Marcel, and of course you for tuning in. See you in another reality next week.